Hi, it's Nørgaard. So welcome to my channel if you're new here, or welcome back if you are a returning subscriber. So today I'm back with a new makeup tutorial, and today we're doing this look. I'm doing, a very natural look, and I'm doing it specifically for people with pale skin, fair skin like myself. I'm going to share my best tips and tricks on how to do makeup when you have pale skin. And this makeup tutorial is also beginner friendly. Since it is so simple, and I'm also using all drugstore and affordable products, and actually I'm also using all drugstore and affordable brushes and tools, except my eyelash curler. But yeah, we have like a 3-in-1 today, so I really hope you enjoy it. And if you do like the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you share this video on your social media, it really helps out my channel a lot. So thank you if you do that. And now without further ado, let's just get right into the video. Okay, let's get started. I already washed my face and applied my moisturizer and my eye cream. You always want to do your makeup on top of your skincare. You want to have clean and moisturized skin before you begin, always. And I'm going to use a primer today. Primer is optional. Some people love it. Personally, I love it, but some people don't like it. Some people don't use it. So primer is a personal preference. If you have never tried a primer, I would definitely recommend it. Try one out, see what you think. I'm going to use the e.l.f. Matte Putty Primer. It looks like this. It's a solid primer, and I'm going to apply this all over my face. And I really like this primer because it is mattifying and I have oily skin. But it's also a putty, so that means it will fill in your pores. And I do have larger pores on the cheeks and the nose area, which is very common, especially if you have oily skin. And this primer also comes in a luminous version and in the classic version. So if you have oily skin, this one would be the one to go for. But if you like a more glowy look, then the luminous one would be the one to go for. And if you don't know, then you can try the standard. And this is just like applying moisturizer, except I rub it in first and then I kind of tap it in. I just find that gives a nicer finish. So I am going to use a second primer. This is totally optional. I'm just doing this because I have dry under eyes and I want my concealer and my powder that I'm going to put here, I want it to look as fresh as possible. So I'm going in with a little tiny bit of this e.l.f. under eye primer. And you don't have to use a specific under eye primer underneath your eyes. I'm just doing it because I don't want to apply the matte primer underneath my eyes. That would not work well. So yeah, this step is totally optional, but if you do have dry under eyes, I really love this e.l.f. primer. I did a whole dupe video on it. It is a dupe for the Smashbox under eye primer. So now we can move on to foundation. I'm going to use this one by Revlon. This one is the PhotoReady Airbrush Effect. I have it in the lightest color, number 1, Ivory. And I always like to shake up my foundations just to make sure they're not runny. And this one, as you can see, is actually not a bad skin tone match for my overall. As I was saying, this is not a bad skin tone match for me. And I've really been liking this foundation lately. I think it looks just really flawless and it actually stays matte on me for a long time. But if you are super pale, I would recommend getting some lightening drops. I have some from the BodyShop. These are called the shade adjusting drops, but you can get these from various brands, and these are just really great if you buy a foundation and it's a little too dark. You just mix in a few drops of this and it will lighten the foundation. Nowadays this is not super necessary. When I started wearing makeup like 10 years ago, this was super necessary because all the drugstore foundations were too dark. Like the lightest color was way too dark for my skin tone. So back then you either had to wear a too dark foundation if you were really pale, or you had to not wear foundation at all, or you had to get your hands on some kind of lightening drop like this, because there just weren't a lot of light foundations, just like there weren't a lot of really dark foundations. Nowadays it's not really an issue. Most drugstore, like reputable drugstore brands, will have a wide variety of shades. So you should be able to find a foundation you like in a color that matches you, even from the drugstore. Back in the day, it was like MAC was the only one, at least for me. MAC was like the only brand that had a color that worked for me. And even a lot of the other like more expensive and high-end brands, they did not have light enough colors and they did not have dark enough colors. As we all know, in the beauty community, it was with Fenty's release of the 40 different shades in the Fenty foundation range. That was kind of what laid the foundation for all other makeup brands to start having a wider variety of shades. And that was in like 2017 or something. It was not that long ago. So a lot of people, a lot of brands, they jumped on that bandwagon and they expanded their shade range. Like one brand I can think of is Wet n Wild. Now I think Wet n Wild's foundations come in 40 shades, but like 10 years ago they had like 4 shades and their foundation was terrible. Anyway, I think Revlon is actually one of the brands that has for a long time been having a quite big shade selection. I think about this Airbrush Effect foundation, I think about the Color Stay. Those two foundation lines, they have always been pretty inclusive. So anyway, I'm going to apply it to the back of my hand. And just to show you, I am going to mix in just a drop of this Lightening shade adjuster. I don't need a lot because it pretty much matches me. And then I just go ahead and mix it on the back of my hand. And this is another reason why it's so good that the shade ranges have been expanded, because now you don't have to sit and mix your foundation, you know. Because first of all, it's kind of messy, it takes longer, and also depending on how much foundation and how much of the lightning drops you get, you can kind of get a different shade every time. So I would recommend that you just find a foundation in your right color. Nowadays, a lot of brands actually have white foundations. You can also try that out. I believe Makeup Revolution has a white foundation. The LA Colors or LA Girl, I think it might be the LA Girl foundation, also comes in white. So yeah, you have some different options. So now I'm just going to go in with this concoction. And I'm going to use my e.l.f. Ultimate Blending Brush. I just recently bought this and I'm really liking it. I like the shape of it because it's not flat, it's not cut straight across. A lot of my other foundation brushes are just cut bluntly. But I like how this has some taper to the sides. So anyway, I'm going to spray it with some setting spray. Just like a few times. And I'm just working that into the bristles. And just kind of wiping the excess off the brush. And I just kind of stipple it on to maintain some of the coverage, or most of the coverage, as much as I can. And you can see this is a really good match for me. It blends pretty much perfectly into the neckline. And I always like to take my foundation down the neck, just with a tiny bit of product. I don't like having a ton of foundation on my neck, but I definitely don't want it to be bare either. Okay, so for concealer, this one is a little more tricky. I don't find that the market has as many super light or even white concealers as I would like. Especially not, you know, drugstore brands. I find that oftentimes drugstore brands will have their lightest concealer be the same shade as their lightest foundation. And personally, I like to highlight with my concealer, so I need it to be lighter. So I'm going to use this Technic 3-in-1 canvas, Contour Sculpt and Conceal it's called. It's kind of like the big doe foot applicator concealer, kind of mimicking Tarte Shape Tape. And I really like this one. I think it works well. I have it in the color Porcelain. And I believe this is the lightest color. The problem is that it's basically the same color as the foundation. So what you can do is, of course, you can use some of your lightening drops to make the color lighter. The problem here is that this will water down the coverage of the concealer. So if you want your concealer to be lighter in tone and also make the coverage lighter, this combo is perfect. But if you still want to keep as much of the coverage as possible, I would recommend using a white concealer. So this one is also by Technic. It's called the White Base and Concealer. I believe this is like part of their like Halloween line. But as you can see from the packaging, it's packaged in the exact same way as their regular concealer. It just has, you know, the detailing on the cap. But this one works really well. It is the same formula as their regular skin tone concealer. So they work really well together. So even though this is technically like Halloween makeup, it's not cheap, it's not dry, it's not cakey, it's not like, you know, masky. It is a good concealer. Another one that I would recommend is the Makeup Revolution white concealer. So a white concealer I would highly recommend if you are really fair and you want a bright concealer, bright highlighter look. So the way I'm going to apply my concealer is I'm going in with the skin tone one first. So I'm going underneath the eyes, of course. And you can see the color here. It is basically my skin tone. And I just highlight all the usual places. And then I'm going to just apply the white right on top of that. And I'm going to blend this out with this W7 Mini Beauty Blender. This is great for concealer. And yeah, I find it to work really well if you don't want to spend the money on the micro blending sponges from Beauty Blender, of course. Oh. Anyway, I go ahead and I just blend out my concealer. And I like to have my foundation brush ready just to help blend out the edges. And make sure you blend it out well, because you're not only blending out concealer, you're also blending the two concealers into each other. And when I blend out the under eye area, I like to take whatever excess I get on the sponge and I just apply that on the lid. I don't apply any concealer directly on my lid because I know I will have excess. Okay, so we are looking a little ghostly now, but it is perfectly fine. It will come together in the end. But right now I'm going to cream contour, and I'm going to use the W7 Bronze Chic Universal Bronzing Balm. This is a dupe of the Chanel Teint du Soleil or something like that. It's really pretty and I find it works well with my fair skin. I'm going to use this e.l.f. brush. It does not state the name on the brush, but I know a lot of people love and use this brush. So I'm sure you should be able to find it on e.l.f.'s website. And this is a really great brush for cream contouring. It does have a slight slant. It's not completely, like, it does have a little bit of more flat cut on the top over here, but it does slant down over here. It works so great right in the hollows of the cheek. So I will use this for the outside part of my face. And I will use first the e.l.f. concealer brush to do my nose and my lips and my chin. And then I will blend that out with this concealer brush from eBay. So how you contour your face is very much personal preference. I like to contour my chin right here because I do have like quite a large chin for my face. And when I contour my nose, I don't close it off at the end because I have a short nose and I want it to appear longer. So then I take my small concealer brush and I just blend it out. And I find this W7 cream bronzer to blend really effortlessly. And I always have my foundation brush handy. And yeah, I pretty much always go over my cream contour with my foundation brush. So for the outside perimeter of my face, I'm going to pick up some product with my finger. And I'm going to work that onto the back of my hand, kind of warm it up. And I'm going to take my brush and just spray it. And just work the setting spray into the bristles. And then I'm going to pick up the product from here. And then I go ahead and stamp it into my forehead up here. And this brush just does the job so effortlessly. It will just blend your cream contour so perfectly. Like while you are applying your cream contour, you're also blending it out. And I do blend this all the way down to the highlight. I applied the highlight about right here. And then we'll do the cheekbones. And for the cheekbones, it's generally a good idea to go a little bit higher than what you might think. Usually that suits most people, especially if you're a beginner and you like go all the way down here. You can kind of drag your face down a bit. And again, I make sure I just blend it out. So for my jaw, I'm going to use my my e.l.f. concealer brush again to draw on the product. And I'm going to shade in the double chin. And I am going to slightly drag the contour out here and connect it up to the ear. I just kind of feel for the bone, like my actual jaw. And I go back in with my big e.l.f. brush and I blend it out. And I always make sure that I take that contour all the way behind the ear. And you especially want to do this if you're wearing your hair up, because it can look super unnatural. If you have like a lot of like bronzer here and then nothing over here, it can look really strange, I find anyway. And I like to bring the bronzer down like this in kind of a V shape down here. And then of course go ahead and blend with your foundation brush. So now you want to set your face, and you especially want to do this if you're oily like me. And I'm going to use one of my favorite powders. It's from Technic. It's the Soft Focus Loose Powder. I really like loose powders because I need a loose powder underneath my eyes, or else I will get creasing and I will get like a really cakey look underneath my eyes. I have not found any pressed powder that does not make me look cakey underneath my eyes. And yeah, I really trust this powder, so I'm going to go ahead and apply this now. So I tap it out into the cap so I get a good nice amount. And then of course I'm going to blend out the creases underneath my eyes and in the eye fold on the eyelid. And I might actually just add a tiny bit more concealer just right in here, just to make sure that the dark circles are covered as much as possible. So then I just simply blend that out, and I blend out on top, and then I go in with my powder, looking up. And underneath my eyes is always the first part of my face that I set. So I make sure I get like the creases first, and then I can go ahead and bake the rest of the under eye area. And then I bake on top, and I bake my chin and my upper lip area and down the nose and in the center of my forehead. So then I use my e.l.f. powder brush, which is a flat powder brush, and I pick up some of the powder and I'm going to just press it into my hand. You can see how much product I picked up on the brush. I don't want all of that product on my face. And then I just stamp this powder everywhere else. And while I'm doing this, I'm also going over the baked areas and I'm removing the bake, and I'm just doing that by simply stamping the powder into the skin. And this powder is like an HD powder, so it will kind of blur out your skin and make your skin look more flawless. And then for my neck, I do want to set my neck, but I don't want as much product, so I'm going to use my Essence powder brush, and I'm just brushing a tiny bit of powder on my neck. Now I'm going to do my powder bronzer. I'm going to use this one by Essence. It's the Luminous Matte Bronzing Powder for lighter skin. This one works beautifully in my opinion. I really hope it's still available and that it hasn't been discontinued. That would suck. So yeah, as you can see, it's a pretty pale bronzer, so it works perfectly for lighter skin tones. And it's a beautiful finish. It is called a Luminous Matte. So it is somewhere in between a luminous and a matte bronzer. So the outer ring here is a matte bronzer, and then the center is a like satin bronzer. So it gives your skin a really like natural look. It does not look, you know, super shimmery and artificial, but it also doesn't look too matte and heavy. And I do have texture on my cheeks, like where I apply my bronzer. and this still works for me. It doesn't bring out my texture, so I would highly recommend this. Really hope it's still available. And my personal favorite brush for bronzer is the e.l.f. Complexion Brush, this one. For me it's just the perfect size and shape. And with this I'm just going to go exactly where I placed my cream bronzer. So we go along the forehead and I do large circular motions. And for my cheeks I also do large circular motions and kind of going like back and forth like this. And again, make sure you don't drag it down too low. And then I go along the jaw and I focus most of the product underneath here, and then I bring it out to the sides. And then I also take it down just like I did with my cream bronzer. And I go ahead and use my fluffy powder brush just to blend it out so it's not harsh at all. Then I use my e.l.f. fan brush for my nose and my chin. So I just go right on top of the cream bronzer. So I pretty much just place the brush right in the dip between my chin and my lower lip. And then with my nose I just run it down the sides. And again, I never close it off at the end. You can do that if you have a longer nose, but I don't, so I'm not trying to make my nose appear even shorter than it is. And I also blend this out. So for blush, if you have a lighter skin tone, you want to go with a lighter blush, of course. So I really like this Revolution Ultra Blush Palette in the color Hot Spice. So these are the colors you get in here, so nothing goes too deep and dark. So I think I'm going to use this color over here. And I have really been loving my Real Techniques blush brush lately. Another brush I like is the e.l.f. blush brush. But as you can see, these are completely different sizes, completely different shapes. Right now I'm just loving the bigger, like more cheek hugging Real Techniques brush. So I pick up a little bit and I kind of just sweep that onto the apple of my cheek and upwards. And when you are fair like me, you don't need a ton of blush. And this blush palette is also really pigmented, so I only dip in like once or twice and I tap off the excess. And personally, I just always like to go back in with my powder brush and just blend everything out. Now for highlight for light skin, I really like this Glazed Donut highlighter by Essence. It's a really beautiful highlight. It's a nice texture, it's a nice color. However, this has been discontinued. You can't find it anywhere really anymore. And I like this highlight because it's like a really true pearly highlight. Some of my other highlights that I own that look light, they all have like a duochrome effect to them. So for instance, this is Wet n Wild's Blossom Glow. And this one has a very strong pink undertone. I'm sure you can also see it in the compact. The same goes for this Physicians Formula Butter highlighter. It looks just pearly in the compact, but then once you put it on your skin, it pulls very pink. And then I also have NARS Albatross highlight, I think. Yeah, this is Albatross. And this one pulls really gold, like super light golden on your face. So I do like all of these highlighters, but they're not that universally like usable, because sometimes I don't want that pink undertone. Like if I'm doing a peach or a nude look, I don't necessarily want a pink highlight. And if I'm doing like a silver eye look, I don't want a gold highlight. And I just have found it a bit difficult to find like a really true icy highlight without any kind of duochrome to it. So that's why I like this one. But another alternative that is available on the market that I would recommend is this Mega Glow palette by Technic. So it has 4 gorgeous highlights. So this one over here is a nice champagne color. It pulls a slight bit golden, as you can probably tell from the pan. But there's also this highlight next to it. This one is like super icy. It pulls a little bit lilac, but it's definitely not too bad. So I would recommend this palette if you're looking for some nice highlights. I also do really like the 2 top colors. And remember, of course, that this could also be used as eyeshadows. So if you have pale skin and like you won't be able to use the 2 top colors on your face, you can always use them as eyeshadows. Anyway, I'm going to use my Wet n Wild highlighter brush. This is my absolute favorite. And I'm going to mix these two colors. And I like to apply my highlight right above the arch of my eyebrow on the forehead, on both sides. And then I just blend it out. And I'm going to apply the highlight on the cheekbones as well. You can see it gives a nice intense glow. And for my Cupid's bow, I like to use a little lip brush by BH Cosmetics, just to make sure I get right in there and I apply the highlight where I want it. And the same for the nose. I use my small little lip brush and I just use my finger to kind of pat it out. You can also highlight your chin. My chin gets so oily, so I don't highlight my chin. It's gonna be highlighted in a few hours anyway, so I just leave it. But if you want to, you can highlight your chin. So now I'm just going to take a little bit more of my soft focus powder by Technic, and I'm just sweeping this across my skin, but not on top of the highlighter because I don't want to dull that down. But everywhere else I'm sweeping a little bit of the Technic powder, because this is just really going to soften your face and make it look filtered. And once that is done, I'm going to take my setting spray and just lock everything in and make sure my skin doesn't look powdery. So this one is the W7 The Fixer Face Spray. It is long lasting. It is a long lasting makeup fixer. And then I want to make sure that completely dries, and then we are going to do the eyes. So moving on to the eyebrows, I'm going to just brush out the foundation and powder. And for your eyebrows, the lighter your skin is and the darker your eyebrows are, the bigger a contrast that will be. But brows are an extremely personal thing, so you can honestly do them however you like. And of course, if you have black hair, and you want to do black brows, that's perfectly fine. And if you have blonde hair and you want to do a dark eyebrow still, you can definitely also do that. The rule of thumb would be that if you have very pale skin, you should also tone down the color of your eyebrows a bit. But that rule is so, I think it's kind of outdated. Like, there are so many exceptions to that rule. So honestly, you can just paint your eyebrows whatever color you want. I am going to use my little Essence Super Last Eyebrow Pomade Pencil. So this is like one of the pot pomade products, just in a pencil form. And I'm gonna do a natural brow today. So I'm just pretty much filling in my sparse areas. So here you guys can see the difference. So this is the brow complete and this is the brow without anything. So these are my brows completed. So I'm just going to set them in place with my NYX Control Freak eyebrow gel. This one is really good at holding in the brow hairs. It's going to make your brow hairs stay in place. So for the eye look, I'm going to do the most simple eye look, and it's going to complement your face and your other makeup no matter what, because we're going to use all the colors we used on our face. So I'm going to use this Wet n Wild blending brush, and I'm using the bronzer, and I'm just bringing that in the crease, right in here, and kind of swooping it out. And I am kind of connecting it up here where the nose starts, and the same over here. So using your bronzer just takes away all the guesswork, you know, of finding the right transition color or the right crease color, and wondering if your eyeshadows are gonna go well with your bronzer and your blush. Then I'm going to apply a tad bit of the blush into the crease as well. And I'm just gonna do a little bit of this. I don't want it to be too colorful on my eyes. I just want the look to look coherent. And then with a flat eyeshadow brush, also by Wet n Wild, I'm going to apply my highlight on the eyelid and the brow bone and the inner corner. So I'm just patting this all over the mobile eyelid, and I'm going to use the little lip brush that I used for my face highlight, and I'm going to use this to highlight the brow bones and the inner corner. And I use my finger to blend this out, and then make sure you get that tear duct area. And for my lower lash line, I like a little definition, so I'm going to take this eyeshadow brush by e.l.f. This is a flat eyeshadow brush, but it is slightly more fluffy in comparison to like my Wet n Wild eyeshadow brush. The e.l.f. one is definitely more fluffy, more bendable. This one is a lot more stiff, and I want something that's a little more fluffy. So I just take my bronzer and my blush, and I just run that along the lower lash line. And I'm not even using a mirror, this is like super simple. So now I'm going to do my lashes. My favorite lash combo is the Essence Lash Primer and the Technic Mega Last Waterproof Mascara. So I will curl my lashes, apply one coat of primer, and then wait for it to dry, then apply one coat of mascara, wait for it to dry, and apply another coat of mascara. And that will make my lashes super long, super dark, super volumized. So let's get it. I'm going to use my Shiseido lash curler. This is not drugstore, but it is my favorite lash curler. So I go really close to the base of my lashes. So I basically go as close to my lash line as I possibly can. And then, as I said, I just go in with a simple coat of mascara primer. And so while my lash primer dries, I'm going to go ahead and do some of my lip stuff. I'm going to do more of like a pinkish, dusty rose kind of lip today. So I'm using this Primark lip liner in the color Nude. Okay, and the lipstick I'm going to use is JLo's Nude by L'Oreal. So it looks like this, it's very close to the lip liner. And since my lips are pretty dry at the moment, I'm going to add a gloss on top. This is by e.l.f. This is called Champagne Glam, and this is the lip plumping gloss. And this color suits me pretty well because it's pretty close to my natural lip color. Anyway, now I can go in with my first coat of my mascara. So already with one coat of mascara, you can see that the look is coming together. But I always like to do two because, especially because of the primer, since it is white, I want to make sure that I get it completely covered so my lashes don't look gray or white. But while my first coat of my mascara dries, I'm going in with my Wet n Wild eyeliner. This is called the Breakup Proof Waterproof Retractable Eyeliner in the color Blackest Black. And I'm going to apply this on my upper waterline. This is going to make my lash line look thicker, and in that way I won't have like the little flesh gaps showing. This is just a little step you can take if you want to perfect your eye look, but you have to make sure that you're using a waterproof eyeliner. It has to be something that's not going to smear and like smudge down on your lower waterline. This one from Wet n Wild is really great. So I'm just going to look down into a mirror, and then I'm going to draw back and forth, and this will be a little uncomfortable, but it will be worth it. Alright, so now I'm applying my second coat of mascara. So before I clean up my mascara smudges on my eyelid, I'm going to apply a little bit of mascara on my bottom lashes. So I'm just going to look up and run my mascara along the bottom lashes. And I want a lot less mascara on my bottom lashes than I do on the top. So I'm really just applying a small amount. And I do use a little metal comb to comb through my bottom lashes to make them less intense. And then I'm going to go ahead and remove all of the smudges. Okay, so here we have the finished result. Please let me know down below what you guys think. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I gave you some tips and tricks and ideas for your makeup application if you have fair skin or pale skin like me. And as always, don't forget to thumbs up the video if you did enjoy it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And you can also click the bell to get post notifications. And that is all. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching. And yeah, I will see you in my next video. So take care and bye bye.